Audio.etc is proudly supported by Auto Sound and Security. Hey guys, how's it going? James here from Audio.etc. I am filming on the new camera. Today I have the Audi A4 back in for the speakers to be done. The front speakers, the rear speakers, and I still am supposed to be removing the factory rear subwoofer so that the bass from this active P312, you can see it in there, so that the bass from that can flow through and into the cabin. Let's do this. I see now why Casey Neistat really does wear the glasses, because I can see myself looking lens, screen, lens. So yeah, this is my first go really using the camera for videoing anything. It has got a full battery, so we'll see how we go with that. We'll see, you know, if I end up getting caught halfway through the day with no battery. I'm still going to use the GoPro for time lapses. The reason this camera isn't on that tripod is because this one keeps falling apart. So yeah, let's do some time lapses, get the cards off the doors, and then start looking at how I'm going to mount the speakers in them. Sweet. Okay, so I got all the door cards off the doors, and yeah, now I'm sort of just obviously moving on to the speaker installation. There's already been some speakers put in the front doors. Not sure what brand they are. I'm going to take it apart and have a look and see what we think. You can see they just sort of cable tied the... Oh, that's falling out. There we go. Oh, what do we see there? Pioneer. I wonder if these are TSA series ones. Sorry guys, I'm like knackered. I had a huge weekend of gardening. Huge. Long weekend. Got lots done. Let's have a look at these speakers. Looks like they've used like double plastic layers. 2 layers of plastic baffle. And then the speaker. If I can get the screw out. Jeez, it's in there tight. Oh man. Nasty, whoever did this install. It's the same person that did the stereo install. That's the whole reason the customers come to us, is because I think he wasn't very impressed with the stereo install. And it stands to reason that the speaker install wasn't going to be much better. Rangy. See how he just sort of shoved the wires under the baffle there? Nasty. Some broken plastic universal baffle. This is a Pioneer. It is a TSA series. TSA 160C. Okay. Well, they're coming out and P16s are going in. Tech screws for holding it in. For holding in the baffle. I wonder how they did their wiring. Oh no, 3 layers of plastic baffles. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. Now, the wiring. Where have they done that? Behind here? Oh yeah, here it is. Let's have a look. Question. Now, did they solder? Did they solder? I'm going to place a bet and say I don't think they did. It feels a bit chunky, which usually means that they've just twisted it and folded it over. Oh no, they did solder, look at that. They did the old twist and solder method. Not a huge fan of that, because it makes ugly joins, but I guess it's better than just twisting it and taping it. There we go. Get those out of there. Okay, so now, let me get a P16 woofer. This thing's sitting out for some reason. And we'll see how it's going to fit in there. I probably am going to have to build something. It almost goes the whole way in. So I wonder if I could use just a set of those 905 wooden pre-made baffles like I did similar in that, what was that car I just recently did with the Type R's, the Legacy. If you guys remember what I did with the focals in the last one, I ended up sort of sandwich botched mounting them into the factory pods. Wasn't a huge fan of how I did that, but it worked. So I wonder if we could put this just in like that. Does it completely cover the hole? Almost, just not quite at the bottom. A couple of gaps down there. The other thing is I could just make something, So here's one of the factory rear speakers. These are the factory big massive plastic pods that they come in. The focals, I ripped all this out and mounted the focal in from behind and then put a big ring on the top of here with nuts and bolts going through it all, and then like tightened the nuts and bolts and sandwiched it all together. And it worked really well. Like, it was a very sturdy structure. I just wasn't, you know, overly happy with how it all looked. It wasn't very pretty, but it did work very well. And the reason I did that was because I was trying really, really hard to get the woofers in a pod where it went into the door cut, because this membrane that you can see here, it like meets up with the door perfectly, and I really wanted the woofer to be lining up with it really well. But in this case, I'm less concerned about that because they definitely are like a lower grade speaker than the Focal Flax ones. It's not as huge of an install, this car, so I don't need to put as much effort in. But I think I would like to, you know, slightly improve on my methods a wee bit on how I mounted the woofer. Because though what I did worked, I still wasn't very, you know, happy with it. And if I had a chance to do it again, I probably would have preferred now to have actually built something up out of wood. But I was very limited for time because it was a huge job. So the thing is, if I build something out of wood to match this, it's going to have like a thin layer at the base with this profile, the outer profile. And then I'm going to have to build layers of 18mm up on top of it, because I'm pretty sure, well, I don't know, I could probably do the bottom layer in 18mm to match the profile, and then the top layer would have to be smaller, because otherwise if I went like this, from this point here all the way up in 18, chances are that's going to hit on the door card somewhere. In experience, when it's thinner at the top and wider at the bottom, it's like that for a reason. So could just copy this shape onto a piece of wood with the flush trim right a bit. Copy 4 of them. How much height do I need? Let me give them a ruler. So the total height, including the rubber, is pretty much exactly 2 inches, or 50mm. 2 lots of 18 is obviously 36. The thickness of my woofer, including the surround, is about 10mm. So 2 lots of 18 and this would be 46 out of 50, which would be pretty much perfect, I think. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, as opposed to using these, I'm going to make 4 pods out of MDF with an 18mm shape that matches this, and then an 18mm circle on top of it, screwing it all together, and then we can mount it to the factory points as well. As long as they're all there throughout the car, which I'm pretty sure they will be. And then yeah, that should work pretty well. Sweet. By the way, if you haven't worked it out already, yes, I am shooting on DSLR, that's why I can do this. Love the fast zoom, it's great. And brand, Canon, model EOS 200D, or if you're in North America, that would be called the Rebel SL2. Yeah. Just as I was sort of shopping around for them online, looking up reviews, seeing what was ideal, since, you know, I was having issues with my GoPro, everyone was saying that this was like a new model out, and it was a great starter DSLR, like for people who haven't really done that much with it before, and it seemed to pack a lot of features into quite an affordable price. And also I like the fact that compared to a lot of other Canon and other models out there, it had a very small body. Obviously it's huge compared to a GoPro, but it's, compared to its other models in the same line, quite a small actual body itself. So yeah, I went for this, and I'm liking it so far, having fun. I'm not using the built-in mic, I am using that cheap shotgun mic that I had on my GoPro at the moment. I will get a Rode Video Micro, just need to find the time and find the place where they sell it and get it. But this should be good. I should be able to show you guys a few more like close-ups and like detail on my installs now, because my GoPro just had no autofocus whatsoever. Okay guys, so what I've been doing now is basically just marking out on some bits of wood, making sure that I've got enough material to make the baffles that I need. This one here I'm going to use to make my 4 circular donuts, which are going to be the upper part of the baffle. They're going to match the outer diameter of the Rockford fosgate speaker here. Not these lips, but just the outer diameter. And then this one here, I haven't got enough for 4. I've got enough for hopefully 3 of the big weird shaped bottom parts over there, and then I'll just find another piece over in the spare bin over there for the 4th bit. And yeah, I've just been basically marking out and making sure that I've got enough, you know, lengthwise to fit all 4 this way. I would have done 1, 2, 3, 4 in a grid here, but there's this annoying cutout thing there for some reason, so I'm doing it 4 long ways. Now I just need to mark the center hole. I have got one of these things that you may have seen Mark using, but my one, it's a bit old and the spring kind of releases itself a bit too easily, and it doesn't make a very big indent in the wood, I find, so I just use this one here, which is it's just a sharpened Allen key thing. I just put that on the center point. Mark each one of those, and then go through them with a pilot hole with a 3mm drill bit, and then drill them out to a 5mm, because what I'm going to do after that is use my circle router jig, my custom built circle router jig that I made, which just has this 5mm, there it is, the 5mm bolt there, and that just sits in. You loosen this off, adjust the distance from the center bolt to the cutting bit of the router, and then you cut out the circle. Do the outer diameter first, and then I can cut out the inner hole as well. And you want to make sure to do the outer one first, because if you do the inner one first, then you end up with nothing to attach the router jig to cut the outer one. I learnt that lesson pretty early on in the donut making process. Okay, so now I need to drill these out. Okay. I was wondering whether or not I would have to rough cut or, you know, divide these up individually first before I do the route, because I was thinking for a moment that it might, though they might all fit together, there might not be enough width in between them for the width of the router bit, but there definitely is. The router bit that I use is a 1/4 inch, and there's definitely a 1/4 of an inch of space in between each one of the cut lines, which means that they won't overlap or intersect. So we'll be fine just to keep it all as one piece. And now I can get my router jig. The way I do this is, so these vertical lines that I've drawn here, I've been marking out, as you know, just to make sure that it's all going to fit. I can slot this in the hole, lower the router bit down to point, and then make it line up exactly with that line there. And then before I start, I slowly sort of push it around without power and scour a line to make sure that it's going to cut the right sort of hole. So if I do this one here for you first, slot that bolt into the hole like that. Oh, now the tricky thing is my router circle jig going to go close enough, because this is a homemade router jig and it doesn't work the best on very small holes that I would do often. Like, oh wait, no, I think we're going to be okay actually. That's right, we are cutting the outer hole first, so we should be alright for this. It's the inner one that we might struggle with. So now, you guys might be able to see in there. If I just adjust this, lower this down, I need the router bit to be facing inwards like that, since we're cutting an outside diameter. Lock that off there, and now just adjust the length. Tighten this up. Now, holding the router bit in place, kind of go around like this. Scour myself a nice line. There we go. We're going to be all good. So that's good. I can move this over to, well, maybe that part of the bench over there, where I'm going to get a bit more dusty. and start cutting it out. I will do a time lapse for it because this is going to take a while. So I'll cut all these outer diameters out and then move on to the next step and show you guys how to do that.
Okay, there we go guys, got my 4 donuts made up. They're relatively perfect. I mean, at least I know that they're perfect circles. They fit under the rockford fosgate woofer pretty well. If I had enough hands. Yeah, pretty snug. There could have been a wee bit snugger, but that was as tight as I was able to get the circle jig, my budget circle jig over there to go. If you had a better one, I could probably have made the circles just a tiny bit smaller and made that fit a bit snugger. Or if I, could be bothered, maybe I could have just cut them out, really carefully with a jigsaw. That is also a viable option. But now that I've got those done, I need to make the 4 big, funny, weird pieces. So I'm going to do that. So, fortunately for me, I know how these work. There are 2 tongues at that end that have to come out, and the clip for this is at this end. So just come under here with a screwdriver. That side just clips up. Oh, my bad, the clips are at this end and the tongues are at that end and the clips are at that end. Oh well. Anyway, now what I can do, I need to trace this, or I could trace this. One thing I do need to do is kind of mark the center. Let's just theorize, and I'm going to cut it out of this bit of wood, this sort of angle. So we'll sketch out the shape. If my pen would work, there we go. Just sort of roughly sketch the outline. You can do this sort of step however you guys want, but ultimately what we're trying to do is copy this shape. And my pen's not working because it doesn't work when you get dust in it. Just do a rough sketch, okay? Because what we want to really do is actually mark the center. What I could do, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Just in the back of this, on the bit of wood, I'm going to drill that center hole and then straight down, make a mark there. There we go. So that's where the center of the hole in this bit of wood's going to go. And then what I'll be able to do once I've cut that hole out is this magnet will sit through and I'll be able to trace the shape much better. Because I could like this, but as you can see it's like not sitting all the way down. So I want this to sit through so that I can trace this shape properly, and then I will either jigsaw it or copy it with the flush trim router bit. I could copy it with the flush trim router bit, but the only issue with that is that this is plastic and that bearing tends to spin at quite a high velocity, and in experience, when I've tried to copy shapes when the original shape is made of plastic, amazingly that bearing can, heat up and start melting into this, causing a deform in the shape and kind of wrecking this a wee bit. If I had a better flush trim router bit, like a Mobile Solutions one, or if we replaced that one more often, maybe that wouldn't be an issue. But the bearing on our flush trim router bit, unfortunately, is getting a wee bit gritty and not flowing very smoothly. Still works fine for copying wooden shapes, but unfortunately just against plastic, I think that's just one of the limitations of working at a cheaper shop. If you've got all the amazing tools and bits, then you can do whatever you want. But I think for me, I'm going to have to do this whole method first and then probably copy it with a jigsaw. Yeah, I'm probably just going to do it with a jigsaw. You can be good with a jigsaw. So now that I've got that marked, what I can do is use the hole cutting router bit again to cut that exact same hole. Or what I could do is just line one of these up to... Oh no, I'm going to use the hole cutting router bit anyway. Is there one of these with a... There we go, with a full cross here. Because what I can do now is line those up with the hole. That looks about right there. Cool. That's the hole I need to cut out. Could just, yeah, no, like, I'm mucking around. Let's just use the hole cutting jig like I have been doing already. Cut this hole out, and then sit this in here, trace it properly, and then jigsaw it out. Okay. Okay guys, so moving on, I got those baffles completely made up. At the moment, they're just kind of drying a wee bit. I've got a bit of PVA glue in between the different layers there, and then after that's done, I need to just sort of file off the brad nails from the bottom because they're poking out just a wee bit, and just a bit more sanding and things here and there. I want to make these baffles really nice and, you know, professional and good looking. I might even give them a paint as well. So in the meantime, while that is drying and everything like that, I'm going to start moving on to the tweeters in the doors.
Bernie asked me about a couple months back. No.
By the way, what up, Dean?
No, the
there you go, man.
cameras are non-retainable right now.
Got you guys playing in the background live, but I got to keep working, you know. Okay, so the tweeters, at the moment, they've used kind of a cable tie. I'm not sure if you guys can be able to see this. If I zoom in, you guys can see they've kind of used a cable tie up in there to secure this tweeter in. Obviously I'll start by getting those out. I've already had a look and it looks like the Rockford fosgate tweeters are going to fit quite nicely, much more snugly. These are slightly bigger than the ones that are in there. One thing I like about the Rockford fosgate punch set is that there isn't actually an inline crossover with them. Where's my woofer? The Rockford fosgate punch woofer actually has the crossover built into it. Man, this camera is a lot heavier than a GoPro. I'm still getting used to it. So, oh, you're answering my question.
You get into the whole Audison bit HD system with the whole thing there, or go with and download, you know, your files from that. Only two options that I'm aware of.
So, as I was saying, the Punch series speakers have two terminals on them. They've actually got, you can see there, doesn't say in, but that's the input side, positive and negative, into the woofer from the speaker wires. And then it's got your tweeter output on the top of it there. So you don't have to worry about mounting a crossover anywhere, which is really ideal for this car, because you guys remember the absolute nightmare of a time I had trying to hide those massive faux cal crossovers last time. So this one will be a lot easier. I'll be able to find a place for the tweeter wires to come out of the door here somewhere from behind the woofer, and then they'll just link up with the factory wiring and connect on around about here somewhere, I think, because I'm going to make the tweeter wires on the door follow the factory wiring down to where it connects to here. So I'll just find a nice hole somewhere for the tweeter wires to come out of, and then they can all connect up. Sweet. So, moving on to what I was saying about the tweeters, and I have shit on my feet. Let's get a door card. Start with this one here. Okay, so just remove this tweeter here, if I can. There we go. They just used a cable tie to hold it in there. There we go. That come out. Not a bad idea, it did seem to work, but still not that great. Right, now here's the Rockford fosgate tweeter. That looks like it's going to fit in there pretty dang well. I just have to figure out how I want to hold it in there. Probably just a bit of just what I usually do, which is, you know, a little bit of hot glue, a little bit of RTV. The hot glue holds it in the meantime while the RTV dries, and the RTV ultimately ends up being the long-lasting holder. So that's probably what I'll do. Yeah, because that fits in pretty perfectly. It doesn't clip in, but it does sit in nicely. Okay, that's what I'll do. Just need a couple dabs to hold it in place while I do the RTV. You guys probably couldn't see that, could you? Okay, that's dry, now the RTV. Is that going to make it hard to get back out? Yes, but that's kind of the point of it, isn't it? I don't want it to come out. That's that one done. I'll do the other three and keep going. Okay, there we go, guys. I've done all the Twitter connections on all the doors. I'll show you what I did here. Originally, I was going to use those extension looms, which come with the speakers and tweeters, and loom them up with my Tessa tape and run them with the factory loom all the way down to the connection point, which is here. But then I realized that the tweeter wires that are already up here, these tweeter wires that were already up here, I thought originally that they went to a full range connection in the box, but they don't. They actually go to these wires here, which you plug into the Audi speaker. So what I'm going to be able to do instead is cut this off and solder these wires onto whatever output from the woofer I have, rather than having to run an extra wire down with it. I'm just going to use the built-in ones that are already loomed up. And so I've basically just soldered on the wires and heat shrunk them. And I've done that for all four of the doors. So yeah, that's the doors pretty much done and ready to go on the car at some point once I do the woofers. What I can still do on the doors though is I do need to cut off these connections, and then maybe I'll put some crimps on them instead. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'll put a male and female crimp on them so I know what is positive and negative actually, because on all of them, since they have the same speaker wire colours, I've made brown negative and blue positive. So I just need to put some male and female crimps on this connection here. And then the same on the wires coming off the woofer. Sweet. You guys may or may not remember, but when I did this job with the stereo install, I mentioned how the stereo didn't quite fit right because we didn't have the correct cage for it, or sleeve. Well, now we do. So I've just been sanding and painting the baffles for the speakers. So now I'm just going to quickly, in the meantime, get the stereo out, fit it to the cage, and then mount it in there. Hopefully the cage is the right one. Hopefully. Universal double din. This is a 103mm one, I think. Hopefully it fits in the kit. I thought when I measured the kit that it was 100mm, but I couldn't find any cages for 100mm, so I'm assuming that means that it is 103 and I just measured wrong. Okay, there's a broken piece in here already. See, this is why I measured it, and it said, and I did measure it correctly, it was meant to be 100, so that doesn't quite fit, but does... No, it doesn't even fit that way. Bugger, so this ain't gonna work. I don't know how this kit was originally meant to work. Maybe it was meant to be, maybe this kit, because this kit was already in the car, maybe this kit was one of those ones that came with a pocket, and it would have been a slightly small pocket which would have allowed for a single din to fit in there. So that would explain why this overall height isn't big enough for any double din cage. Because like, that does fit in there, in this gap. I would have to file off one of these lips. Oh, the phone's ringing. So I would have to file off one of these lips in order for this cage to go in there, but then there's the issue of this front lip, which doesn't even fit in by itself either. So that's an issue. Oh, I don't know. I'd have to file that whole edge there, I think. And then if that was all the way down there, and I'd have to file off this metal edge along the underside of here as well, and then have it sitting all the way down. I could have a go. I think I might give it a go. Yep. Wish me luck. Okay, I grinded, where is it? That edge off there, and that whole lip down there. Let's see if this slides in now. Okay, well the good news is I got the cage in the gap, the stereo slots in and clips in, so I got that to work, which is good. The only thing I have yet to figure out is how I'm going to do a trim, because this trim that came with the kit, or came with the cage, doesn't fit in this fitting kit, because as I've figured out, this fitting kit that has been put in here is not for a double-din stereo. But I can figure that out later. Really, I need to focus on the stereo stuff, on the speaker stuff now. So let me quickly put the stereo back in here. Now this should just slot in. And then clip, clip. Just check till it turns on. Cool, everything. The great thing about these stereos is that they keep all these settings as well. Cool, that's all good. Speakers. Woofers, speakers. Change my mind, I don't like these screws that come with the Rockford come with the speakers. The heads are too small, and then if you tighten them up too much, if you do them up nice and tight, then they start pulling themselves through the plastic. So instead, we're going to use Alpine screws, because they are better. There we go. That's one speaker mounted. And I can get to the terminals on the back, as you can see, which I have an idea for what I'm going to do as well. You may have noticed I didn't put any foam tape in between the speaker and the wood. That's because the Rockfords are awesome and come with a layer of foam tape already stuck onto it. Really nice. So now I'm going to mount up the rest of the speakers and then do a little wiring thing to get the since the wire connections are out here, not behind it, I'm going to put some wires onto the connectors through the wood, and then there'll be some, male-female connectors outside here. So I'm going to do all that and check back with you guys in a minute. Okay, so what I got going on now is got the woofer mounted, and then I've got a piece of trailer cable here with 4 wires in it, 2 for the tweeter, 2 for the input side to the woofer. It's going to go through there, out of this foam grommet, and the connections are all going to happen around about there. So now I can mount this. Just going to poke this thing through here. There we go, just like that. Oh, now I suppose I do need to put some foam on the back of here, don't I? Just because that's going to mount up to there. That's going to go on there. I'm going to get some big screws to go through there. And there we go, there's one in. So now, yellow and brown, there's my woofer wires, they're going to connect onto these ones. Okay, looks like brown, blue and green, blue. Well, on Audi, brown is always negative, so that's my negative wire. Okay, there we go. So that is now pretty much ready for the door card to come back on. Let me show you what it looks like up close, since I've got this fancy camera now that can do that. So yeah, there we go. Door card's about ready to go back on. I can see the battery indicator on my new camera is flashing and about ready to die, so might end up having to switch over to the GoPro or something like that for the last wee bit. I forgot to bring the battery charger with me, and I haven't got any replacement spare batteries or anything yet for this camera. What I probably am going to get though is a dummy battery / DC input connection so that I can power this maybe off a battery bank or something like that, which will last a lot longer than the standard battery. But anyway, hopefully the camera will last, and I'll put the door card back on and we'll test it and make sure it's all going. That. And that. There we go, there's the tweeter connection. Now this has to go back on somehow. Cool. You turn the key on, make sure it's all going. There we go. All good. Okay, so that's all working. I can now switch over to a time lapse with the GoPro and quickly try and power out the other 4 of these speakers. It's 3 o'clock, that should give me enough time to get that done and then hopefully get the factory subwoofer removed. I might do some testing and listening as I do that and see if I think it sounds better with the factory sub in or out, or maybe just disconnected and leave it as a passive radiator. I'm not sure, I'll play around with that and see what sounds best. Okay, there we go guys, the Audi is finished. I was just filming those little bits of footage showing you the individual speakers having been done, and then that was it. That was the final straw on the DSLR battery, so that ran out. I was kind of expecting that to happen at some point today anyway, because I haven't really yet had a chance to play with it and know how long the battery really lasts, so I was expecting that for this video. But hopefully in the future I'll be able to, you know, time manage with that thing a bit better and possibly get, you know, as I said, a dummy battery charger, which I can, you know, meaning I could use a power bank as the power supply, maybe it would last a bit longer. So on the GoPro at the moment, but yeah, it's all done, the speakers are done. With the factory subwoofer, I couldn't get it out. I thought I was going to be able to, you know, just unbolt it without having to take out the parcel tray, because I couldn't quite remember what the situation was with that last Audi that I did. That, or I know that those subwoofers can actually twist to come out, but it's actually like you can twist it and drop it down, but I can't do that because there's a parcel tray in the way. Basically it's stuck in there and I don't want to take the parcel tray off, because to do that, literally every single panel from the back to the front of the car has to come off, and that's just so much work and so many screws and a nightmare to do. So, and I haven't got that much time. So all I did was I tried disconnecting it, listening to the difference in bass response with it connected and not connected. At first I thought maybe it was out of phase with the Rockford fosgate subwoofer, and so I tried switching the polarity on the factory subwoofer to see if it helped, but it didn't. It actually, you know, still somehow reduced the bass. So what I've got is the factory subwoofer is still in there, but it's disconnected from the factory amp. So now what it is doing is actually just moving as a passive radiator, because when it was plugged into power, it was only moving, excuse me, a little bit, but as soon as I unplug it and let the air inside the boot actually push it around, that allowed it to move a lot more, and a lot more bass got through into the cabin. So that's how I'm doing it. I'm using it as a passive radiator. So yeah, it's worked well. I just want to see if it's much clearer with the new speakers. It should be.
And right about there is where the filming stopped on that, because the GoPro went flat as well. Oi, me and batteries. I just need more batteries and power. Yeah, sorry the filming on this video has been so just kind of jointed and all over the place, guys. It's just me trying new things, trying to make the videos a bit more interesting, and obviously, you know, dealing with a new camera that I didn't know what the battery life was like on, and an old GoPro which the battery life was starting to fail on. So sorry that this video has just been jumping all over the place and that it's kind of stopped and finished there, but that's just all I got for the day. How it sounded, it did sound very, very good. I was very happy with the sound quality in it afterwards. Disconnecting that factory subwoofer actually made more of a surprising difference than I thought it would, so that worked well. Installing the stereo on the new cage worked well, and yeah, the speakers all went good as well. I really tried to be a bit more professional with the speaker install on this one compared to what I did with the focals in the last Audi. Not to say that I, you know, didn't try very hard on the last Audi. I definitely did, but I always, you know, want to try and improve my workmanship as I go. So if I get two cars exactly the same one after the other, I do try and improve on the last install in some way if I can. And I think in hindsight, I do prefer having done the woofers this way. I'm just a bit more confident in the way that they were mounted on those wooden baffles compared to what I did with the last Audi, where I sandwiched them in the factory pods. But that's okay. It's all good. The customer was very happy with how it sounded, by the way. He's very happy with the whole installation. So that's what I'll leave you guys with tonight. Thanks for watching. Choose to be happy. You're beautiful. You're one of a kind. Peace out and keep moving forward. Smile more.